If you've made it this far, you probably already know that LumenTale isn't the kind of RPG you play on autopilot. The game has layers. Combat that seems simple at first, but surprises you as you progress, and a progression system that can be frustrating if you don't know what you're doing. I spent a good amount of time in this game testing, making mistakes, and discovering things I completely ignored at the start. That is exactly why this video exists. Today, I'm bringing you 10 tips that aren't the basics you've already read in every guide out there. These are the ones that actually changed how I play and might help you too. So, if you want to stop getting stuck on the same points and start taking advantage of everything LumenTale has to offer, stick with me. If you think the strongest moves in the game are the ones that deal the most direct damage, I need to tell you that you might be completely overlooking one of the most powerful strategies in the game. In LumenTale Memories of Trey, the stamina bar, SP, is not just a resource to spend, it is the key to controlling the entire pace of a battle. And when you learn to manipulate this to your advantage, the game changes completely. The big takeaway here is that SP is shared by the entire enemy team. This means that if you focus on draining this resource with Animon that have specific skills for it, you aren't just weakening a single opponent, you are locking down the entire team. Each time a drain move hits, the effect stacks, and the opponent is left with fewer options to respond. Think of it like cutting off the power to a house before the main fight even begins. The beauty of the strategy is that it is built on consistency, not luck. Assemble a team with 2 or 3 Animon that have access to these SP drain moves and apply constant pressure from the start of the battle. In long battles, especially in PvP where every decision carries much more weight, the enemy who runs out of SP first loses control of the situation. While they try to manage with basic moves, you still have your full arsenal available. And look, in PvP, this is even more brutal than it sounds, because you aren't just winning the battle, you are frustrating the other player's plan in real time. Nobody likes to reach a decisive moment, only to find out they don't have the SP to execute the strategy they set up. If you want to climb the ranked ladder and win consistently, building a team focused on SP drain is one of the most solid investments you can make in LumenTale Memories of Trey. There's a mechanic that separates casual players from those who truly understand the combat system. I even spent hours playing without realizing its full potential. I'm talking about the TP bar, and if you aren't building your team around it, you are literally wasting free actions every battle. The logic is simple, but the impact is massive. Every time you hit an elemental weakness or land a critical hit, this bar fills up. When it hits the maximum, you gain an extra action that costs absolutely no SP. Zero. Nothing. In a mechanic where SP dictates who has the power to respond in combat, gaining an action that doesn't consume this resource is basically a free turn within the battle. What makes this so powerful is that the mechanic connects directly with something you should already be doing anyway, exploiting elemental weaknesses. When you build a diverse team capable of covering several element types, you aren't just dealing more damage, you are constantly feeding this TP bar at the same time. It's a cycle that rewards players who study the enemy's Animon before entering the field and penalizes those who keep playing on autopilot. In long battles, and especially in PvP, these extra actions can completely change the outcome of a balanced matchup. Imagine being in a critical moment of the fight with low SP and still managing to execute a decisive blow without spending anything. This isn't luck, it's intelligent team building. Exploit the weaknesses, feed the TP bar, and let the game work in your favor. One tip that I really think is important is not to go around selling everything the monsters drop right away. I know, in many RPGs, we have the reflex to clear our inventory, but here, that can cost you quite a bit of power later on. The materials that drop in battles aren't just to take up space. They have real value in your skill progression, and this changes the way you view each combat encounter quite a bit. The main point is to pay attention to what the game asks for in the interface to upgrade your attacks. Instead of treating these items as just any loot, keep the specific materials that appear in drops, because they are exactly what you need to level up the moves you use the most. This makes your team much more efficient, especially if you already have some favorite skills and want to get the most out of them. To me, this is one of those mechanics that seems small, but makes a huge difference in the long run. The most interesting thing is that this type of evolution makes combat much more strategic, because you aren't just getting stronger through raw levels, but rather strengthening your specific playstyle. If you like using the same attacks, it makes a lot of sense to invest in these materials instead of wasting them. And since the game revolves around creature collection, battles, and team progression, optimizing the damage of your moves helps a lot to maintain momentum, especially when you start facing harder fights. So, my recommendation is simple. After each fight, think twice before selling the drops. If the material can be used to upgrade an important skill, it is worth much more kept than converted into quick cash. At first, it seems like a detail, but later you realize this accelerates your power quite consistently. And in a game like this, where every progression decision counts, saving the right items can be what separates a close fight from a clean victory. While many people are focusing on fighting endless battles to level up, there's a much more intelligent way to gain XP that few people are exploring. And I'll tell you this from the heart. It's in the recycling bins. Yes, you heard that right. Those containers around the world that you might be ignoring are actually one of the best sources of experience in the game. And best of all, it doesn't require any battle grinding. The secret isn't just throwing any item anywhere. Each bin has a specific color, and when you match the color and material of the item with the color of the right bin, you get an extra experience bonus that makes all the difference. It isn't just the item that matters, it's the correct combination. Metal item in the appropriate bin, plastic in the right bin, and so on. Each correct match generates XP for the entire group, so you are leveling up all your Animon at once without spending SP and without needing long battles. This is especially valuable when your team is unbalanced and you need to level up specific members without forcing traditional grinding. The network of bins scattered around the world is not decoration. It's a complete alternative progression system that the game placed there waiting to be explored. If you want to evolve your team efficiently and aren't in the mood to get stuck in a tedious grinding route, start paying attention to the colors of the bins and the materials of the items you collect. It's a mechanic that rewards observation and organization, and in the long run, the XP accumulated here can save you hours of gameplay. Recycling isn't just good for the environment, it's good for your team in LumenTale. A tip I discovered that completely changed how I hunt creatures is mastering the use of ambush and attraction on the map. When you see a rare Animon way off in the distance, out of your physical reach, you don't need to wait for it to come to you. Instead, throw an aggressive monster nearby or use an item that generates aggro to grab the creature's attention and pull it into battle. This opens up a huge range of possibilities, especially for those rare Animons that insist on staying in distant places. Another point that makes a big difference is knowing how to throw the capture device. Whenever you're going to throw the holokin, aim for the target's back. This really and significantly increases the capture rate. It's a mechanic the game almost doesn't explain, but it truly works. When you hit from behind, the Animon has less chance to escape, and the capture process becomes much faster and less frustrating. I started applying this, and my success rate skyrocketed. The strategy of attracting aggressive Animon also works in many cases, and this gives you an extra level of control over which creatures you want to face. You can use one of your own monsters or an item to provoke the encounter, and this is especially useful when the rare Animon is protected by other enemies or in areas that are hard to reach. This turns the hunt into something more tactical, instead of relying only on luck or running around the map for nothing. In the end, the combination of ambush, attraction, and the right throw of the holocan at the target's back makes your entire collection process much more efficient. For those who want to build a strong team with the rarest Animon, these details make all the difference. In a collection game like this, knowing how to provoke and position your attack is what separates those who stay stuck with common creatures from those who manage to build a truly special team. If you are hunting lost Animon, the game's equivalent of shinies, and you think you have to rely on 1 in X thousand luck, I need to tell you a secret that completely changes the game. The LumenTale engine allows multiple lost Animon to appear in the same area at the same time. It isn't a bug, it isn't a coincidence, it's a real mechanic, and those who understood this are getting many more encounters than the average player. The first sign that there is a lost Animon nearby isn't visual, it's auditory. They make a very distinct bell sound while appearing on the map, and this audio is your alert to stop and pay attention to what is happening around you. It isn't just a shiny monster passing by, it's a sound cue that the game intentionally left there to help you. If you heard the bell, stop what you were doing and focus on the area, because something good is appearing. And here's the part that many people miss. When you find a lost Animon, don't run away immediately thinking it's over. The game allows more than one to appear simultaneously in the same setting, so there is a real chance of another encounter happening right after. Many players keep jumping from area to area, believing they need to reset. But in reality, the highest concentration of rare encounters is happening right where you are, and you just need to have the patience to observe. If you want to complete your collection with these shiny Animon without spending hours in blind hunting mode, adjust your headphones, pay attention to the bell sound, and don't underestimate the possibility of multiple spawns in the same location. This strategy doesn't guarantee you'll catch them all, but it drastically increases your chances per hour of gameplay. Lost Animon are more accessible than they seem, and the game gave you all the tools to find them. You just need to listen and observe. One of the most important mechanics, and one I see many people ignoring, is the trade-off between your team size and the use of SP and TP. SP is shared by the whole team and recharges each turn, but the more Animon you have on the field, up to a maximum of 4, the more divided this resource becomes. This means that if everyone uses strong moves in the same turn, your other creatures might be left without action options. It's a delicate balance that completely changes how you think about your strategy. TP, on the other hand, which is the extra turn gauge, works differently. It fills faster when you use smaller teams. This opens up a huge space for tactical choices. In decisive battles, like against bosses or in PvP, having more free turns can be the difference between winning and losing. You can perform more decisive actions at the right moment, while the opponent is limited by their own turn system. I realized this the hard way after several lost battles because I didn't understand it. The advanced tip here is very clear. Use teams of 2 to 3 Animon against bosses or in PvP precisely to maximize the free turns provided by TP. With fewer creatures, each one gains more opportunities to act, and you can better exploit the combos and mechanics of each skill. This makes your team more predictable to you, but much more unpredictable and dangerous for the opponent. Uncommon route clears, on the other hand, larger teams work better because you want speed and different type coverage. Mastering this trade-off between large and small teams is what separates someone who just plays from someone who truly understands the game. Large teams are great for clearing routes and farming quickly, but when things get serious, smaller teams give you real control of the battlefield. If you want to take your game to a more competitive level or just want to win tougher bosses without such a headache, starting to think about your team size is one of the most important first steps. If you are entering battles without scanning the enemy Animon 3 times, you're basically playing in the dark and losing information that makes the difference between winning easily and suffering unnecessarily. Most players scan once, see the basics, and move to the fight. But the scanning system has layers that most people completely ignore. By scanning once, you see only partial weaknesses of the enemy, the minimum the game gives you. But when you scan twice, that's when the full weaknesses appear, and this completely changes your Animon choice for the battle. The real trick comes on the third scan. That's when the full Ana Wiki unlocks, showing all the enemy's moves, their evolution line, and even special quirks, information you would normally only have after hours of research or external wiki use. This mechanic isn't just for convenience, it's essential for those who want truly optimized builds. Knowing exactly which moves the enemy has before entering combat allows you to build teams with specific counters, avoid elemental traps, and even exploit quirks that can turn into your advantage. Besides, each scan contributes to your research level, so ignoring the 3 scans means missing progression in the game's research system. Next time you see an important Animon, don't be lazy about scanning 3 times. Those are a few extra seconds that save you hours of trial and error, lost battles due to lack of information, and suboptimal builds. The full Ana Wiki is the difference between playing in casual mode and truly mastering the game in LumenTale Memories of Trey. Every Animon has a unique attribute, like Felicis, which slightly heals the team after attacking, or others that increase damage in exchange for losing HP. And this completely changes how you build your strategy. However, these attributes aren't worth much at the beginning of the game. They only truly unlock after a specific story point, usually around Route 16. Until then, you might be underestimating the real potential of your creatures. When these traits finally unlock, you start to see how powerful they can be if used well. The advanced tip is to prioritize the redistribution of your Animon's stats while thinking exactly about its attribute. If your Animon has an attribute that bonuses crit hits, for example, it's worth investing in attack and speed and choosing moves that pair with that. There is no point in having a strong attribute if the stats and skills aren't aligned with it. I lost quite a bit of time ignoring this, and after I adjusted it, my battles became much easier. Another important point is to choose the right moves to synergize with the attribute. An Animon with a crit boost and extra turn opportunities through TP can become a true carry in small teams. In teams of 2 or 3 creatures, each action counts more, and a single, well-built Animon can carry the whole battle. This is especially useful in PvP and against bosses, where every turn and every point of damage matters. I started building my teams with this in mind, and the difference was absurd. Understanding and exploring emotional attributes is what takes you from a player who just plays to someone who truly masters the game. Prioritizing stat redistribution and choosing moves that combine with your Animon's trait not only maximizes its potential, but also opens up space for creative strategies that many people don't see. If you want to build competitive teams or just want to win those harder battles without suffering, this is one of the most important pillars to master in LumenTale Memories of Trey. You are losing battles you could be winning easily, and the fault might be something you don't even know exists. The vast majority of Animon have a hidden type, tucked away beyond the main type that appears for everyone to see. The secondary type completely alters the weakness and resistance chart, and ignoring this is playing on hard mode for no reason. Think about it. 2 Animon of the same visible type, like 2 viruses, can behave totally differently in combat. One might fall to water and electric, another might be weak against earth and ice. The main type is the same, but the hidden type changes the whole matchup. You chose your team based on the obvious type, but you are entering the battle with the wrong information from the start. Here is the point where everyone fails. The game doesn't show you this hidden type right away. Only after scanning 3 times and unlocking the full Annie wiki do you see the real information. Many players scan once, see the main type, think they know everything, and enter the battle. The result? They take critical damage they shouldn't have, they fail to exploit weaknesses that existed, and they lose battles that seemed easy. If you want to stop losing to enemies that shouldn't be difficult and start building teams that actually exploit the right weaknesses, there is only one way. Full scan on every important Animon. Open the Annie wiki after the 3rd scan, and only then decide your strategy. The hidden type is the secret that separates those who are playing around from those who are truly mastering the game in LumenTale.